While it is not advisable to befriend wild animals, occasionally the most hazardous creatures can unexpectedly become the ones we form a strong connection with. One individual had such an encounter with wolves, which transformed his life forever, and the extraordinary turn of events that followed was truly remarkable. The setting for our tale is a quaint village in Russia, where locals were aware that wolves roamed the outskirts of the town. The people believed that the wolves posed a danger to their community due to previous human attacks, and parents routinely warned their children to be cautious of the wild animals lurking in the nearby forest. As a precaution, children were prohibited from venturing outside at night and were required to be accompanied by a companion during the day. Nevertheless, a few individuals had a distinct perspective on wolves. They considered the creatures to be a pathway to wealth. Wolves could fetch a substantial sum in the area. However, the hunting regulations in this region were intended to safeguard animals, including wolves, from being hunted for recreation or for their valuable pelts. Unfortunately, this did not deter poachers in the region from hunting and exploiting wolves for their own benefit. It was widely acknowledged that certain colored pelts held greater worth than others, causing some types of wolves to be more highly prized than others. At times, they had been hunted to almost extinction. Perhaps it wasn't so shocking that they would sometimes attack humans. One day, a local licensed huntsman was making his way through the forest on the outskirts of the village. He was on the hunt for wild boar, a common target for those who hunted in those woods and a legal one as well. Unlike wolves, wild boars were not quite as hunted, although they were still dangerous. He had quite a bit of experience, and so he was careful as he made his way through the woods. The huntsman knew that wild animals could come from anywhere, so he had to be observant of his surroundings at all times. Usually when animals heard a foreign noise, they would run unless they felt threatened and needed to stand their ground. The huntsman had had more than one frightening animal encounter in his past, and so he was cautious as he slowly moved through the woods. Not long into his journey, he heard a group of voices coming from not far ahead. As he got closer to the group, he realized that their chatter had quickly subsided and everyone's attention was focused on what was in front of them. His heart sank as he stopped to stand with them. He had heard that kind of silence before and feared what was going to happen. No one moved or even answered him when he spoke softly, thinking that he had spotted a boar and were terrified. He took a few steps closer to the group. It was then that he saw that the creature that they were targeting was, in fact, not a boar at all, but a pack of wolves. The huntsman realized that no one in the group was licensed. They were a group of poachers, and it looked like they didn't care about the strict rules on hunting wolves. He also noticed that they weren't scared at all. Rather, they were so focused that they hadn't realized that they had been caught in their illegal activity. Before he could speak up and scare the poachers away, they took their first shot. The wolves were visible in the distance when the hunter focused, and he could see that they sported the rarest type of fur. The shot rang out through the woods. The noise scared the pack, who started running, and the poachers followed suit. The huntsman was worried that the wolves would be cornered and killed and decided to follow the group. In mere moments they entered a small clearing, but instead of running after their prey, the poachers stopped in their tracks. At first, the huntsman was confused as to why, but he soon realized that the pack had run into a frozen lake that had started to crack around them. It all happened very quickly. The ice collapsed, and the wolves started falling into the freezing water underneath. Not wanting to risk their lives in the ice, the poachers decided to turn back and stop their pursuit. The huntsman was appalled by their ruthlessness. They had hunted the wolves into a trap, and now were going to abandon them to their death. They might have left, but he was still there, and he was not going to turn his back on those innocent animals. Mastering all the bravery that he had, the huntsman dropped on his belly and slid on the ice sheet, moving towards the hole the wolves had fallen in. One by one, he started to pull them out from the water by grabbing their fur and then pushing them back to the safety of the clearing. Perhaps it was adrenaline, but not once did he think about the risk he was putting himself into. He was not only surrounded by icy waters, but also by a pack of wild wolves. Once he had saved them all, he carefully got up and waited while they shook the freezing water of their fur. the huntsman looked around for something to defend himself with from their impending attack. However, what actually happened was something he could have never imagined. The wolves just walked away. The man thought it was a miracle, but perhaps the wolves had recognized his act of bravery and kindness and decided to spare him because of it, mesmerized by the encounter. He left the woods as well and went home. He thought that their story would end like that, but that was only the beginning of their bond. The wolves still had to thank him for his kind deed, and were going to do it properly. It wasn't long after this incident that the huntsman found himself back out in the woods on another hunt. He had the strangest feeling that he was being watched and followed, but couldn't see or hear another person walking. It wasn't long before he realized that he was actually being watched by the same pack of wolves he had saved a few weeks earlier from the frozen lake. At first, the man was very alarmed because he thought that they were stalking their prey and waiting for the right moment to attack quickly. He abandoned his hunt and went back to the village about a week later when he ventured back into the forest. The same situation occurred this time. However, the man did not flee in fear because he realized that their close presence couldn't be a simple coincidence. If they had truly wanted to attack him, they already would have. After all, wolves were known for being very smart creatures and very loyal. Of course, sometimes they were dangerous, but they could also be affectionate. That day, one of the wolves slowly made its way out from its hiding spot behind the trees and took a few steps towards the man. The wolf was holding something in its mouth and dropped the item onto the forest floor before backing away. Slowly, all of the wolves disappeared into the woods until eventually only the huntsman was left in the clearing. He walked over to the item that the wolf had dropped and saw that it was the remains of a small squirrel. The hunter became aware that the wolves had presented him with a gift, almost as if he was a member of their pack, in appreciation for saving them from an imminent demise. From that point onwards, the hunter was certain that he had formed a bond with the wolves of the forest. He committed himself to imparting the importance of conserving nature and its inhabitants to the people of the village. He was resolute in ensuring that the wolves were never exposed to harm by humans again, and it is our fervent hope that his message was heeded. While our planet is teeming with predators, it is not always the wild creatures that pose the gravest threat. As humans, we must take proactive measures to preserve nature and its inhabitants. What kind of world will we have in the end if we don't take action to protect wild animals, especially those in isolated forests vulnerable to poaching? Share your thoughts on how we can better protect these creatures in the comments section below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with your friends and family. Don't forget to press the bell icon to receive updates from our channel. Thank you.